they'd become a real insurgency. So when the Nigerian army came, it pushed them back and, you know, reclaimed the local government areas. But the truth is that the primary tool of this organism is terror. So it just falls back to its guerrilla tactics, hit and run. Now, the point is this. For you to defeat these people, you cannot afford to be 2 steps ahead. You must be 40 steps ahead if we are ever going to defeat this thing. And I have said before, there are 4 things that you need if you're going to defeat. It has become an insurgency now. It wasn't before. Number 1, you need a superior ideology to their own. The challenge in Nigeria today is this. Look at the Dapchi girl that was left behind. It's a tragedy. Why do I say it's a tragedy? First of all, this is an issue that all religious communities should come together to decry the kidnappers. Both Muslims, both Christians should be coming together to defend religious liberties. Let me put it in a succinct way. Number 2, we must have a value system. What is the body language in Nigeria today is as if, well, in Dapchi we got so many back, but what is the life of one person? No. If we are going to have a nation where things are going to work, the life of every single individual, there must be a value system in Nigeria that raised the life of every one person. So important that we will send, if anybody tampers with Nigeria anywhere in the world, talk less of within, we'll send everything after you until we get our citizens back. And whether they come back dead or they must be back to us. There should be no negotiations. There should be no stories. We have studied these things. The errors that we are making is simply in the fact that we are militarizing, truly, the approach to handling this issue. We will not win just by militarization. We need to not only have better weapons, we must also have superior architecture of thought. We must outthink these people. At the pace at which we are going right now, whatever military victories we have scored have been offset completely by the fact that the government is yet to put into place all the other convincing things that will help us to secure the lives of our citizens. So until we do that, I don't think we should be smiling. Remember many years ago when I started coming here, it was a bit difficult to communicate to the public what we said was coming. Now that it's on our doorsteps, everybody understands it. It's brutal, it is merciless, it is patient, it is lethal. And this country cannot afford to joke with it. We need to go back to the conversation between Nnamdi Azikiwe and the Sardauna many years ago. When Azikiwe mentioned, first of all, and said, gentlemen, let us forget our differences and, move forward. No, Sardauna said, no, let us not forget our differences. You are a Southerner and a Christian. I am a Northerner and a Muslim. Let us recognize our differences, interrogate them, talk about it, and then build unity based on our differences. I think that was golden counsel that came in those days. And this is the only thing that I believe at a time like this can help us to face this thing for what it is and defeat it while there is still time.
Mr. Yaro, the people in Chibok and the environment in Borno State, how are they managing themselves in the face of this? Because I know there is a coming together, there have been different groups formed, apart from the civilian JTF. How are they managing themselves in the face of this?
Actually, they've been living in fear because of the trauma they went through, because every day they don't know what will happen. And their youth, their younger ones, are out of that community. Yesterday, we had a prayer section. And if you see teenage boys that run from Chibok to here, they sleep, some of them say they sleep under bridge, some they sleep in the slum because they can't afford to live there. So there in Chibok, they live in fear. And mostly it's the elderly, the women, and people that cannot afford to run. So they're living in fear.
So are you saying that there are no young people in Chibok anymore?
There are, but not much. They are not much. When you come to Lagos, you see thousands of them has fled. Because mostly over there, they are farmers. They depend on farming. There is no facility. In Chibok, it's only that secondary school that they have. And they'll be marginalized. they fend for themselves. And as they are fending for themselves, if you go there, you will pity them. You say, oh, what are these people looking for? Because they don't have nothing. They fend for themselves. And people still go and fight them and kill them. So they are fleeing every day. Those young people, you see them there, is maybe they can't afford to leave. Or they don't have places to go. People are living in fear. Even my immediate family, most of my family flee. They can't go to farm.
Are you from Chibok?
I'm from the southern Borno. I'm from southern Borno Biu. And from my place to Chibok is not far.
Well, the impression we got was that all was okay in that area now, that Boko Haram had been defeated, Sambisa Forest had been mauled down.
Well, they are doing their best, the government are doing their best, but people are not living as normal. It's not as normal. You can't live a normal life, you know. Formerly, you travel from Maiduguri to Chibok maybe an hour or two, but now it will take you a whole day. You have to go through Gombe. You have to travel for like 12 hours, 14 hours because of the fear. People are traumatized. The government have tried, security men are there, but still people are fear. They are living in fear.
Now, Pastor, how much is this affecting the girl child in the northeast of Nigeria?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. First of all, let us use Leah as the example of the girl child who is in school. Now, you and I know that the destruction of education is one of the objectives of the insurgents. Now, one professor, C.O. Taiwo, I think in 1980, he wrote a book that was launched, and he pointed out that in 1906, the gap between the northern part of the country and the southern part of the country was about 25 years, 50 years in terms of education. By 1980, it had gone to 75 years.
Oh, it should have been improving.
Well, he said in 1980, this is based on research purely now, that in the next 10 years, if this thing is not addressed, the gap will be 100 years. Then, Obafemi Awolowo made a comment and said, once we allow the gap between North and South education to exceed 100 years, he said the results will be too gruesome, was the word. This was 1980, that the results will be too gruesome to describe. So what is happening right now is not something that you even need to be a prophet to foresee. Many sensible people based on researches right in this country had already pointed out. So the psychology of terror is interesting. How can girls want to go to school when there's an ideology that is saying that girls are not first-class citizens? So we are talking about feminine gender abuse here. These are things that our constitution is meant to guarantee every citizen of the country. But you carry not a whole swath of the country, and then you put fear in girls to even go to school. So apart from the religious liberties that are being attacked, we are talking about feminine gender abuse. Now, let us look at this issue very well. How can we as a country be looking at young girls? The threat is that you go to school, you may end up being raped, you are kidnapped, you are raped, you are converted by force, all your human rights are suspended, and you are treated like property. Behavior which is no different from our youths that are being sold as slaves.
Pastor, can you just please hold that thought? We need to take a short break now and return to the conversation.